Thank you for joining us today. We're really excited to introduce Sparkline's Analytics Academy, proudly supported with the Digital Analytics Association. So I want to get straight into it and describe who am I and then who our company is. On the left-hand side, there is a picture of me and another girl here, and if anyone is from Australia or the UK, they will understand a program which is a soap opera called Home and Away. And Home and Away has been running for maybe 30 or 40 years, so maybe the equivalent of a Days of Our Lives or similar. And that's how I started my career. And I really believed that my career was set at that point at 19 years old, and thought that I would spend my entire future within the acting world, because I had a real passion for people, and being an actress, you get to explore people and personalities. And the girl next to me went on to marry a famous tennis player called Leighton Hewitt, but she played my best friend on the program, and she was actually 15 at the time when we filmed it. So I was a few years older than her at that time. Then my career took me to Europe, where I did a lot of stage acting and Shakespeare programs. And then I returned home to Australia and I began a career at Google, which is very odd considering what I thought my career was where my career was going to take me. But at the time that I started Google, there were only 5 people in Asia, and we were in a serviced office in Sydney with no free lunch or no chefs or no branding even at that time. And I essentially grew my digital experience by being there. And what I loved about working at Google at that time was the diversity in what I could do and the responsibilities that I was given, and the fact that advertising, much like acting, is about appealing to people's wants and needs and emotions and trying to tap into those in the best way possible. So that really resonated with me, and the use of technology to do that was really fascinating. So I stayed at Google for nearly 10 years. I met my husband at Google. And he was originally part of what was called the Urchin acquisition, which became Google Analytics. So we've had analytics in our family for quite some time. And when we moved to Singapore, I decided that it was time for me to graduate Google and to explore what else existed out there. And through that, I started this business called Sparkline, which is a digital analytics company. And really what I was hoping to achieve was, could we help businesses use data in really effective ways and simple ways, not complex ways, to try and help them to grow and move the business forward. So that's where I am today. The company itself, I started the company in 2013. And really what we were trying to do is really 3 things: is to simplify data, make sure that people understand what access they have to it, and then how that they can make useful decisions on that to help their businesses to grow. Often in digital transformation, those processes are very, very complex. In this company, we really wanted to make it incremental growth. How can you grow today, tomorrow, next month? So really that was the premise of the business. You can see some of the brands that we've been working with, and we've had the company for 6 years. So we do have still a consulting business which we run, but we expanded also into education, which I'm excited to talk to you about today, as well as some productized solutions for businesses to be able to grow. Really from a purpose perspective, our purpose is to make sure that we can liberate people and make sure that they can grow and flourish in their roles, but provide ROI for the business. From a training perspective, we've had a bunch of training experience, and a lot of that has come from the huge need that is needed in the industry for the types of roles that we're training on. Digital grows at an enormous rate, but so does technology. So marketing technology within itself, when we first started the business, maybe was around 700 pieces of marketing technology that were available. We're now looking at over 7,000 pieces of technology within 6 years. So it's become a very difficult area to navigate if you're in marketing teams, because you simply cannot keep up with the pace of change, and you simply cannot find the talent to be able to do it. So we have done a lot of training where we really didn't expect to do that, just to support the companies that we've worked with to be able to get the talent in-house. You can see some of the statistics that are on this slide, so I'll just read a few of them out. 54% of businesses agree that the talent gap is hampering their transformation, and that they've lost competitive advantage because of the shortage of digital talent. In the middle there, you can see a bunch of brands that we've worked with. Some of them are global and some of them are a little bit more local to Asia, but they're big corporates within their space, either within e-commerce, technology, retail, banking. So it really is something that's widespread across the board. On the left-hand side, you can see 43% of big businesses have 15% of their advertised digital positions unfilled, so the talent simply doesn't exist. 49% of big businesses struggle to find analysts with the right skills, so the skills aren't in place for the people that are applying for those jobs. 40% of global companies rely on the analytics expertise of an individual employee. We literally see this all the time when we go in and talk to companies and ask them who are the people that are responsible for the marketing analysis or the analysis, and it's usually 1 to 2 people, which is an enormous risk if you're a large organization, or even if you're a small one, because if they do move on, then you've completely lost the ability to be able to measure your own business performance. And then businesses will need to grow digital talent by 33% in the next 5 years. So there's an enormous need, but also growth targets for the types of roles that we work with to be able to fuel the industry as technology becomes more and more prominent in these positions. For ourselves, closer to home, our company has always been born of a company of learning. So we have trainings that run every Wednesdays and Fridays within our business, and you can see some visuals of some of the alumni that we say now have graduated from Sparkline and have moved on to the types of companies that they've moved on to. A lot of them were graduates to start with, but I think it's important to recognize that especially within this industry, a lot of the learning has to actually happen on a continuous basis, and we at our company make sure that that's built into the culture. So the ongoing learning becomes part of the everyday for each and every member of the team, because simply the industry is too large to be able to set and forget and to learn once and then move forward. So we ourselves as a culture have a very vigorous learning culture. So what happened with Google? Back in 2014, the government in Singapore did a study that said they needed 3,000 more analysts in the next 2 years within Singapore, and that did not exist. So Google turned to our company, Sparkline, and said, can you create a program where we could take graduates and actually train them to be analysts within a short period of time? So we took that on board, and we had done a lot of product-based trainings or agency and company-based trainings, but not necessarily for the role before. We'd done our own internal trainings, but not really had put something together that was going to be commercialized in the way that Google wanted it to be. So we really looked at it as an opportunity to be a part of growing that industry, and also for ourselves to be able to hire our own talent as well. So the program went like this, an annual intake of 25 graduates that came from varying backgrounds. They were chosen by Google. Around 400 kids would apply each year from universities. They had a 6-week classroom training, which was designed by us. And then after that training, they went into internships for 6 months in various companies, from agencies to traditional companies like banks, right through to digitally first companies like Airbnb, Uber, etc. And that internship was paid for by the government. And then from there, it was up to them to get any jobs in that infocom type space possible. So when we looked at the problem statement, we really said, well, actually, a good analyst should be a part of multiple roles, not just one. And from some of our observations, working with a lot of the big companies we had worked with, the analysts tend to be very isolated, and they are asked questions on an ad hoc basis, and there's no contextualization to what the business problem is, what we're trying to solve. It's just literally pulling numbers for reports. So we really broke it down into 5 key ways for an analyst to be involved, which is how do they help be involved to define certain business goals? How do they help with the collection and measurement? And that could be within technology or within measurement frameworks. What kind of reporting needs to be done? And then from there, what kind of analysis needs to be done, because reporting is not the same as analysis. And then finally, what kind of optimization or iterations or testing need to be done. And that's really how we kind of encompassed, if we are going to develop fresh graduates into being business ready analysts, we need to look at these 5 key areas. Our connection with the Digital Analytics Association has been there from the time that we established the business. So even though we are on the other side of the world in Singapore, we've known about the Digital Analytics Association for some time. And what we've really loved about what they provide is a really bird's eye view into how to support these roles within the industry, anywhere from cookbooks to curriculums to resources, etc. So we as a company have used the Digital Analytics Association a lot within our corporate membership to be able to help us not only fuel and grow talent, but also to be able to understand really what's happening within the industry. What we really liked about what the Digital Analytics Association was doing from us creating this curriculum is 4 key things. They have digital competency frameworks for each role that we were hiring for, and they spanned analytical competencies and skills and also technical competencies and skills. The third piece was they also gave leveling. So you could have competencies within each of the roles for levels 1, 2, and 3, which really helps people understand what they're achieving and how they're achieving and progressing in their roles in a really structured way. And then finally, within establishing the competencies, the DAA spent a lot of time getting feedback from various people in various roles. So there's actually a lot of diversity in how those competencies were put together, which is really important when you're looking at these types of roles, so that you don't heavily skew towards technical versus analytical, dependent on the people that are putting the curriculum together. So we had always used them internally with our own team to show them progress, to put together promotional opportunities and pay rise opportunities. So it felt natural for us developing this program for Google that we looked at level 1 competencies and said, how could we make sure that our program at least aligns with what we believe is a really good model to work with as a company. So from 2014 to 2017, we effectively ran this program, and it was called Square Data and Analytics, and it only ran in Singapore. You can see our wonderful graduates from each year in the pictures there, as well as a great quote from the lady from Google that ran the program. But really what we tried to look at was, what is the result of us doing this? And the program evolved in a variety of different ways over time. So for year 1, we only had Google products present. By year 2, we told Google, if you really want these guys to be going into these companies, we need to include other products in the mix and make sure it's an agnostic view of at least the analytics landscape, so that they have a better view. year 3 and 4 was how do we actually make sure that the exercises that they're doing really relate to what they're going to take in the workplace. So we learned a lot as we went. But the stats for us were really positive in that 100% of the guys that went through the program were offered jobs, which is great. 98% of the trainees were highly satisfied with the overall course, which is fantastic given the amount of kids that came through from their variety of different backgrounds. 100% would say they would recommend it to other people that are trying to get into these fields, and that the entry salaries for the people that had taken these roles were actually above the median salaries that were being offered for just fresh graduates. So we could at least prove that there was demand in the market, but also people were satisfied with the curriculum and the course that they went through, but that also from a financial standpoint that they were able to ask for more upfront in their first jobs potentially because of completing this course. And then we've got a few quotes from the guys that actually took the course. So essentially, I'll just read out a few of these quotes. I learned a lot through Sparkline's training. They covered a wide range of topics ranging from data manipulation, using R to present detailed analysis to stakeholders, and skills that are essential for any analyst. Throughout the Squared program, Sparkline's training sessions taught me a lot about data and analytics. They definitely accelerated my learning in data and analytics. And Sparkline's trainers struck a good balance between concepts and practical examples, and were patient in answering questions. Together with well-paced lessons, they created a good learning experience. So we've got great feedback from people that went through the actual program. And then where did they end up? So again, some of these companies you'll see are global companies. Some of them you might not recognize as much depending on the market that you're in, but they are all either unicorn companies or becoming Fortune 500 companies, as well as are Fortune 500 companies that range anywhere from finance to agency to digitally first businesses, as well as more traditional businesses. So we can also see now, and we have a very active alumni through these cohorts that we catch up on a regular basis, where they're taking their careers and how that program has at least helped them propel their careers in ways that they couldn't have done previously. So we thought we were done. We are not a training company, we are an analytics company, and while we do a lot of active training for our customers and for ourselves, and have always created an environment to do this within, this was simply part of our culture, and for us it was about fulfilling a need in the industry in which our office is based, which would benefit us, but also based on a brief that we were given through our Google contacts to be able to create this program. So we had at that point thought, well, that's us finished now for a little while, and we'll get back to our day job. But unfortunately, the industry told us otherwise. So you can see some statistics here now. Anything you look up that relates to digital analytics talent anywhere in the world essentially tells you there's not enough of it, or they can't fill the roles quickly enough because technology is outpacing the ability for learning providers, universities, schools to be able to provide the right support for people going through those programs. I knew this myself working at Google. When I started at Google, anyone that knew anything to do with SEM was considered ahead of their field. And just as new skills develop and grow, those people become more and more in demand. We're going through the same thing now with digital analytics roles because they're becoming important across organizations, not just within particular fields. So you can see some of the statistics globally. I know there's a global audience out there, but essentially the ideas remain the same, which is either people feel like their skills within the roles that they're in, especially within marketing, feels like they will be irrelevant within the next few years. They at least feel like they don't have the right business skills involved. They want to drive analytics across the business but don't have the support to do so. or they're relying on too few people to actually be able to do the job. And this becomes really hard to ignore if you're an analytics business that has this program that could take somebody from a psychology degree and make them the head of one of the biggest ride-hailing companies that exists. So in Singapore, Uber used to be here, and they actually sold their business to a localized company. And one of the graduates from that program is now the head of BI, running one of those big companies. So how do you look at these statistics and not feel like you need to do something about it? So we realized that the problem wasn't only a Singapore problem, or actually really an Asia one. There is a lady that I worked with locally at Google who used to run the Singapore business, but now looks after APAC agency business, and she had hypothesized that the size of the gap is about 30,000 people just within our space to meet immediate anticipated demand. So what were we going to do to evolve what we had learned and to be able to scale it? The main program that we had really fell into three categories. It was around analytics strategies, it was around analytics tools, and it was around analytics techniques. And you can kind of see some of the subcategories that have been broken down there. And what did we know already from the program? Well, we surveyed everybody after every single module that they went through for 6 weeks and got their feedback so that we could evolve year on year. But the main themes were the program worked well to support people trying to flourish in their careers. The curriculum was diverse enough to give exposure to what is a very large and a fast-moving landscape. There was a great mix of skills that could cater to any type of background. As I mentioned, we took, people from non-computer programming degrees and were able to make them into their roles or fulfill their roles. And the program allowed for other learning based on their interests. So this program did not cover everything end to end because frankly the industry is too large, but it gave confidence and a great foundation so that people that wanted to go down different paths, be it more technical or more statistical paths, had the confidence and the ability to be able to do so. What we realized it didn't cover at that point was some of the business acumen. So at Sparkline, we would spend a lot of time with our teams talking about things that naturally analysts wouldn't gravitate towards. And we found the same within our education programs and within the cohorts that we trained, which was the idea of understanding the business was not considered as important as learning programming skills. Secondarily, the idea of ideation, asking lots of questions and creativity wasn't really something that participants thought too deeply about. They relied very heavily on the numbers that they saw and the data that they saw as being correct, rather than spending any time looking for options in what potentially they weren't seeing. And then the third one was the soft skills or working together, communication skills, understanding stakeholders, understanding how businesses worked. For a lot of the people that we would train was not seen as being a necessary part of the role that they were in. And we saw that across people that we would have to train internally as people that joined Sparkline, as well as the cohorts of the students that went through these programs. And that's really concerning when you're looking at statistics like this. And again, these are repeatable studies. This one is from McKinsey that really talks about if you were going to hire your next generation of marketing teams, where would you be looking? And yes, there are some that are within technical skills, so data science and marketing technology, but there's 5 out of 7 options that really talk about curiosity, creativity, leadership, emotional intelligence, etc., as really being key to joining these teams and being a part of these roles. So we knew this from our own experience of running these programs and training our own people, to see it then go into third parties meant that we really had to think about how we were going to evolve this program if we were going to take it to market. So we added a few areas which we called our 21st century editions. And because I had spent a lot of time training our analysts already in having business acumen and soft skills, which was working with ambiguity, being able to make decisions quickly, having creative judgment, asking lots of questions, being curious, trying to understand business stakeholders and structures, that we wanted to then add that to the program that we knew had already worked through Google, to make sure that it was really about encompassing 101 analysis from technical to analytical right through to soft skills. And then we actually realized that as part of our research, and we see this again and again, is going into the future in the next 10 to 15 years, we see this quite often within marketing teams, again from McKinsey. Having the right talent is more important than actually having the right data or the right technology. In this part of the world at the moment, we probably see more investment in technology. In Europe and the US, we see that that shift is happening, that people are really looking for these types of roles. So if we know that we have a great curriculum, we can extend it to make sure that it's more rounded in areas that potentially are usually quite nascent. And we know that there's the demand. How do we then take it to market? So we asked ourselves, what if we could do the following things? What if we could provide analysts the confidence to be in the people business? And I take you back to my career as an actress, where it was all about people and my interest in people. The same still applies. Digital analytics and analytics is really the study of audiences and people, and it's a fascinating topic, especially when you can see it as closely as we are able to, and our responsibilities around it and how we use that information, but also how much more effective businesses can be in communicating real time with their customers and giving them really what they want. And I find that exceptionally motivating and inspiring. So how can we provide the same to people that are starting these careers? The second one was, how can we blend business knowledge and technical skills to help businesses to grow? How can we help candidates focus on interpretation, investigative behavior, and delivering fast and actionable insights to improve customer experience as well as business experience? How can we deliver a tried and tested program at scale to allow anybody, not just people that Google picked to enter the program or some elite other facility, the opportunity to learn and to provide talent to the industry for hiring purposes? And then how do we make sure it can be practical, anytime, anywhere, real learning from real people, and then immediately applicable? So that was the process that we went through to figure out what we are going to do next. And so we came up with this curriculum, and it's called the 21st Century Analyst. And really the idea is that we cut through the complexity of what can be actually something quite complex, make sure that we can actually kickstart people's analytics journey, give them a curriculum that helps people with employability, because we have done it for 4 years with different groups of people. But also as a company, we are an ongoing training provider to ourselves and to the people that work for Sparkline. So how can we make sure that it's as business ready and practical as possible? So we broke down the introductory course really into 12 key sections, anywhere from why are you important in the industry and what this industry is actually doing, to practical tips for how you need to set your foundation right, an understanding of the marketing landscape and measurement frameworks available. And then we start getting into a little bit more into some of the technical pieces around how do you gather data, collect it, clean it, process it. We do a deep dive into the two biggest software providers within the analytics space right now, which is Google and Adobe, to give you a bit of a foundation. We look at how do you turn reporting and analysis actually into insights, and then how do you look at media measurement within that, what should you expect, down to personalization and testing, how you do that, and then finally visualization and storytelling. Essentially, the program that we have presented cuts down what was 6 weeks of an in-classroom learning plus the soft skills into around 20 hours of online videos. We did quite a bit of research into how would we take a live program and make it as successful in a digital realm. And we did a lot of research around length of videos, people's attention span, how long they can spend, what kind of format it needs to be. So we've really tried to break it into bite-sized pieces of video alongside interactive quizzes, exercises, and then interviews and testimonials from people that are doing these jobs to help inspire a more one-to-one relationship with us as the trainers, but also to be able to help people going through the course to understand the context of how important these roles actually are and the investment that you are making in your future within these roles. So now we come back to the Digital Analytics Association. We created the curriculum. We had the research to back up it was important, but we wanted the reach and the validation. Again, we are not a training provider. So how do we get our message out there through an agnostic third party that, if we went to a software provider, would have potentially asked us to remove content from different people, would have had some issues around potentially our trainers because they're all the analysts and all the people that trained at the Google course. So who are the industry bodies that we can reach that are really trying in the industry to fuel the industry, to support it and make a difference? And because the Digital Analytics Association had played such a pivotal role in how we structured our roles at Sparkline and the support that they gave, we immediately reached out to them and sort of said, hey, we're across the other side of the world. We want to talk to you about this program because we feel like it's a really good fit with what you're trying to do. And you can see from the quote on the website, the idea of advancing data to understand the digital world is really a nice agnostic view into we're really trying to improve the world through data and analytics, and companies can and people can because we're studying people. But also for us, it was very important that we could partner with businesses that were interested to support the talent. As I said, we have a very thriving alumni from these programs that we still see and support and mentor. So it was about how can we partner with companies that can also bring that to life, that were agnostic to software providers or different tools and technologies, because there is some politics in this sometimes, that are pushing for progress in diversity and scale. We do a lot around trying to encourage more women in STEM, more diversity in these roles, more scale. There is a huge lack, as you can see from earlier in the presentation, on these skills. So how can we try and bring these roles to life and really make them a lot more about being interesting and curious and wanting to develop skills in these areas rather than them just having to be pure programming skills, and also wanting to empower people or reskill or empower people to reskill for future proofing, because there are a lot of roles right now that are being disrupted through technology. So how can we partner with the best partners possible to help us to do that? And that is where our conversation started to happen with the Digital Analytics Association. And they, after seeing the program and going through some of the courses, were very happy to endorse it, which is why we're here today. So we're thrilled to be here. So what will you experience? You've had a little bit of a overview from our company and our journey and how we've got here and our partnership with Digital Analytics Association, but now it comes back to you guys who are potentially interested in developing your skills or starting out your careers or reskilling for the future. As I mentioned in the previous slide, we did do a lot of research around what will be the format if you are watching us do what we would do live in a classroom, and how could we make that as interactive and interesting as possible. So it's really about bite-sized video content from our team. They're all professionals that are passionate about the topics. They all taught at Google and they all do their roles. So you're not being taught by actors, you're actually being taught by people that do these roles, which I think is really important because it means it can cut through a lot of the noise of things you could learn and make it as business ready and business applicable as possible, which is really where we're trying to get to. We have downloadable cheat sheets that after relevant modules you can unlock, and you can keep those ongoing so that it can help support you in your career and also in the future jobs that you're doing, to be able to take with you to remind you or to support you. We have quizzes and practical real life examples that can help you contextualize what you're learning, and so that you can remain relevant. And the quizzes and the practical examples are actually from mostly Fortune 500 companies and ones that problem statements we come across. So they're real issues and problems that you're solving, not made up problems from people that have maybe never done those jobs before. So you're really looking at working with us to solve real business problems from Fortune 500 businesses, which is exciting. Then we have some interviews, and we deliberately put interviews in with industry professionals because we also wanted to keep giving you, as you're deep diving into the curriculum, also a bird's eye view of what these roles mean to industries, large and small, what it means to professionals doing these roles, what challenges they've faced or things that they've learned, so that can help you on a one-to-one basis support your growth through this program, but also helps you to understand how important these roles are in the industry. At the end of it, you get a certificate of completion, which is endorsed by us and kindly the Digital Analytics Association, plus it says a budget here, but it's actually a badge specific to LinkedIn as a 21st Century Graduate Analyst, which you can add to your LinkedIn page. We email that to you post your graduation. From a pricing perspective, the DAA have kindly worked out a discount for members, so you can do the whole program end to end, the 20 hours for $999 USD, or for non-members it's $1,299. But we also have corporate packages available which you can talk to us about, and or the DAA if you are wanting to have a license across a business. So what does the look and feel look like? This is just a few screenshots for you to see, but you can see the course itself. You can see there's the little badge there. That's the one that goes on LinkedIn. And then as you go through the program, it reminds you of what your next lecture is going to be. And you can see some of the lengths of the videos. So some are short, some are a little bit longer, and all the different curriculum that you get taken throughout the program. And then at the end, you get the cheat sheets to unlock. At the completion recognition, you'll get the badge that's on the left-hand side for LinkedIn, and we also have a co-branded certificate that you can use for your resume with the DAA and with Sparkline. So what if you're not necessarily interested in being a digital analyst, but you just need to fill some knowledge gaps? We have each of the individual modules from that course as individual packets as well. We've had this request a lot, especially from marketing teams, to say, I don't necessarily want to be an analyst and do 20 hours of learning, but I would like to be able to reskill or fill in some of my knowledge gaps with some of these topics. So each of the individual topics have been laid out for you to buy individually if that's more your preference. For existing members, that would be $199 USD. For non-members, it's $299 USD. And again, we've got corporate packages available for that, but they are more your bite-sized, filling in knowledge gap sections rather than end-to-end helping you go into these roles. So we'd love to hear from you, and I'm really grateful that you were listening to us today. If you would like any further information at all, our website is www.sparkline.com, or Sarah, who runs our education program, her email is here, sarahann@sparkline.com, if you have any further questions. And I'd just like to say we're super excited about this program. We're really excited about the partnership with Digital Analytics Association, and we're most excited about being able to take what was an elite program within Asia and be able to deliver it to anybody that's interested in these roles. So we'd love to hear from you. Thanks a lot.